What's going on, y'all? It's JD Pickell. Today on the Hard Count, is Arkansas being disrespected? We will discuss next. Welcome into the Hard Count, the people's show for every single thing that you know and that you love about college football. It happens here on a daily basis. Nick Brake doing the heavy lifting. You can help drive the show by subscribing to the channel. We're also on podcast. If you're on Apple, we're on Apple. If you're on Spotify, we're on Spotify. Wherever you get your podcast, you can find the Hard Count. The Arkansas Razorbacks are one of my favorite teams heading into 2022. I have a nice gallon of Razorback red Kool-Aid waiting in my fridge that I am just itching to chug. And I've been chugging it all off season, but when it comes to the 2022 season, I am buying the hype. I'm buying it in spades. Now, when you look at the win totals, though, Vegas, the suits, if you will, have the over-under win total for Arkansas set at 7.5 games. Now, in 2021, Arkansas won 9 games, and they're only continuing to climb, in my humble opinion. Went 3-7 in 2020, 9-4 in 2021, and now in 2022, Vegas is, I think, being a little bit disrespectful to the folks down in Fayetteville. So that caused me to beg the question, is it just me? Or are the Razorbacks being disrespected when it comes to the 2022 season? And I think one reason why we should expect more of Arkansas and why that win total should be higher and why I think they're going to destroy that 7.5 win total is because of the personnel, the guys in that locker room. You bring back nearly the entire offensive line. You bring back 94% of your rushing yards produced from a year ago. You bring back your leader, QB1 in KJ Jefferson, who is a freak show, like a linebacker coming downhill at you on those quarterback powers. And you also bring back the majority of your secondary, with Jalen Catalon being the leader in that secondary. You also bring back your leading tackler in Bumper Pool. You retooled that defensive line via the transfer portal. You went and got Drew Sanders. You see where I'm going with this? There are so many dudes on this roster for Arkansas. The personnel is there. In terms of the guys actually getting it done on the field on Saturdays, it's there. There's not much more to be desired. You could make the argument that Treylon Burks is a big loss, and you would be right. 11 touchdowns, 1,100 yards a year ago, but they have some guys they feel good about. They also went and got Jaden Haselwood, who did some good things at Oklahoma. I think he's poised for a big year in 2022. So when you look at all the bases that they need to have addressed, they got them covered at Arkansas. Still got to do it in 2022 on the field, but in theory, on paper, I think this team, from a roster standpoint, is set up for success. In addition to that, culture is a buzzword that is sort of a cliche, perhaps overused when it comes to the college football landscape. But when you look at Arkansas, I think culture cannot be overstated because at the thermostat pieces of this program, you have culture taken care of. And it shows in the record and in terms of what they've done previously, going 3-7 in 2020 and going 9-4 in 2021. The thermostat pieces being the key pieces of influence from your quarterback, your head coach, and your coordinators are all still in place. There's continuity in terms of that culture because the culture is phenomenal. But if you were to have a coordinator leave, you have you have a quarterback go to the NFL, you have some sort of changing of the guard at those positions, there could be cause for concern. There could be cause for question marks. It's not the case in Fayetteville. They have Barry Odom back. They have Kendall Briles back as the OC. Obviously, Pitt Boss, Mr. Turn On That Jukebox, is still the head coach there. And you got KJ Jefferson, QB1, who is poised for a big year. Some people are talking about him as a dark horse Heisman contender. We're not here to talk about that. But ultimately, with culture being such a big selling point for why I love Arkansas, there's no reason to question what they're going to do in 2022 from a culture standpoint. That's still in place. Now, the reason why people may be knocking Arkansas a little bit, we're going to secede this point, the schedule is nothing short of brutal. It is just egregious. You have the SEC, typical notable foes. You have Bama, you got A&M, you got Auburn. Not going to be easy. Also got to go to Auburn, like I was just saying. Not going to be a fun game. Not going to be a fun road trip to take. So that's tough. On top of that, when it comes to non-conference schedule, you open with Cincinnati, who, oh, by the way, They made the college football playoff a year ago. I understand that they lost a lot. Don't get it twisted. They lost a lot to the draft. I understand that. But you have to welcome Luke Fickell and company to your home stadium for game 1. It's no cupcake. You also have to go to Provo, Utah, and play one of the most experienced teams in terms of what they bring back at quarterback and coordinators. BYU is going to be physical as heck. And that's the kind of game that Arkansas is going to have to go and answer the bell, quarter in and quarter out, and play their style of football and try to find a way to win a tough non-conference road game against BYU. So that's brutal. Also, if you want to talk about your cupcake, quote unquote, you play Liberty, who I would not by any stretch of the imagination put in the cupcake category. Got Hugh Freeze as your head coach, who has SEC experience. You also got Charlie Brewer, who once upon a time was one of the better quarterbacks in the Big 12 Conference. He's looking for a little bit of his redemption tour. So these 3 non-conference games, a lot of teams take as their non-conference to be sort of the tune-up, and okay, we'll get everybody healthy. We'll sort of experiment with some things schematically. That's not the case at Arkansas. You can't afford to take any of those teams lightly. So like I said, the schedule itself is brutal. But when I look at what Arkansas did in 2021, there's no reason to believe that they're some sort of flash-in-the-pan team. The average margin of victory for Arkansas in 2021 was 18 points. Folks, that's 3 scores. It'd be one thing if Arkansas were sort of this team that caught a couple breaks and won some close games, and that was kind of their calling card, was each week they were the cardiac kids finding a way to get it done and snatch victory from the jaws of defeat. That wasn't Arkansas, folks. There were 2 games against LSU where they won by 3, and then Mississippi State they won by 3. Those are the only 2 where they were close victories. Ultimately, they lost to Ole Miss by, I believe it was 1 point. They lost to Alabama by a touchdown. So those are 2 other games that if you want to be generous, you could say, well, hey, maybe those break a different way, and maybe we're talking about Arkansas as a 10-win team. So Arkansas doesn't need to prove that they're not a fluke. Arkansas is for real. And they bring back the guys in that locker room. They bring back the guys on the coaching staff. And they bring back the culture to be dangerous in 2022. We've already said it on this show. We are taking Arkansas over 7.5 wins. I would advise you to do the same. So that's it for us here on The Hard Count. We appreciate you tuning in. Subscribe to the channel. Follow me on Twitter and Instagram at JD Pickell. We're going to keep this party rolling. We will see y'all next time. Hey y'all, thanks so much for watching. Subscribe to the channel here to make sure you don't miss an episode of The Hard Count. Also be sure to check out other videos on the On3 YouTube channel.